Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Mykela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Mykela. I'm very glad and excited to have you join me on my channel, so don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and the bell so you can join me on this journey. Today, we're going to discuss a few terms or ideas, and then we will add to your story with a setting. One term that we are looking at today is supposition. The basic definition of supposition as a noun is an uncertain belief, hypothesis, or idea assumed to be true without concrete proof. It represents the act of imagining or laying down a premise, often serving as a tentative theory or guess. Let me repeat that. Supposition is an idea or theory that you believe is true, even though you do not have proof. Nothing to confirm that. So synonyms to supposition are assumption, and you know what they say about assumption, or about assuming things. Conjecture, surmise, guess, hypothesis, presumption, speculation. Now, here's an example. You hear that someone is named Hunter, and you make the supposition that Hunter is a male. But then you learn that Hunter lives in a female-only dorm. Then you supposit that Hunter must be female. Okay? So just because we got the one name, we automatically assumed it, and we had to change our guess. And there are some names that you could not guess, like Robin, because you have Robin Williams, but I had female friends named Robin. Carol. I have friends named Carol for both boy and girl. They usually spell them a little bit different, but they could be spelled the same. So you have some names where you can't suppose anything. And then you have some names that you kind of think are one way or the other, right? So you can suppose things. You can make a supposition. Now, I'm not getting involved with the PC speech or politically correct speech. People make suppositions all the time. We assume things. And if you want to know about the assume, how is assume spelled? A-S-S-U-M-E. So, A-S-S. So if you assume things, it makes a A-S-S out of you, which is the next letter, and me, which is the last two letters. So, that's what they say about assuming things. It makes it out of you and me. As writers, this is a great tool to use if you need to keep a little mystery going. You can write something where many people will supposit one thing, and only at the end spring on your readers some facts. Or later in the story, spring some facts on your readers. They will take the new facts and make a new supposition. Just like when we said Hunter was the name, assume it's a boy, lives in only female dorm, then you have new facts. You have to change. So that you make a new supposition. Now, if you look up supposition on Google, it will talk about different types. I decided we didn't need to split those hairs. My hair is kind of thin anyway, so you might not want to split those hairs. Anyway, depending on which site you read on Google, there were 4 types, depending on And I was reading them. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to even know this. But then there was another one that was saying 5 types. And the 5 types was like improper and proper, and then personal. And I don't remember all the types. But the 4 types was like something subjective, and then like qualitative, subjective, qualitative, objective, quantitative, subjective, quantitative, objective. And when I was reading through, I was like, okay. But they'd give me an example of one type. I was like, okay, I can explain that. But then they wouldn't give me an example of the other type. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to go into this. I'm not going to split those hairs. And then, like, for the 5 types, when they said improper and proper, they gave me examples of the improper, but they didn't give me examples of proper supposition. So I was like, okay, whatever. There's types. If you want to dive into it, go for it. I applaud you. But I'm not going to do that. You can go geek out on it. If you look at real life, you know people play on our suppositions all the time. When I first started watching YouTube on the phone, I would click on a title of a video and I would keep watching. I'm watching, waiting for the plot to play out and reveal the title or how the content creator came up with the title. And time after time, these videos let me down and disappointed me. Now, I've told you as writers, or as a writer, when I title my stories, I try to make it a nice title. A lot of times nowadays they have the main character as a title, or the main setting as a title, or they have something that kind of tells you a little bit about the book, maybe not too much. And then I, as a writer, when I title my chapters, I tried to give like a 2 or 4 word summary of the chapter. It's kind of like a little foreshadowing, a little bit, but it depends on how well you read my mind to know how much of a foreshadow that is. But, and you'll see that on Friday when I read the chapter title, then you can in your mind say, okay, I expect this to come up in the chapter. So I try to title things, books, chapters, that kind of thing. I try to title them where it give you a hint of what's going to happen, or give you a summary of what's going to happen. But these videos that I'm watching, they have these titles, and it's just like, okay, and you're looking and you're like, I don't hear anything about that. I don't hear anything about that. I don't hear anything about it. And I would be disappointed, because I kind of pay attention to those things. So the term we use for that, those false titles, is clickbait. Well, why does that work? Because we naturally make suppositions. We naturally try to figure out and fit things into boxes or fit things into categories. Not that I want to be boxed in or categoried in or anything like that, and I'm sure you don't either. But that's how our brains work. We want to put, okay, this goes here, this goes here. We try to put things in boxes. And one of the reasons we do that, I'm sure there's many reasons, but one of the reasons we do that is because when we hear new information, for us to remember it, we need to attach it to some other piece of information in our mind. It helps with memory. And I'm sure people can tell you that it helped when we were tribes and we lived in caves, and it helped protect us. And I read that stuff, but I don't study it, right? So I know a little bit about it. But what I do know is that, especially from my brain, if I hear a little bit of new information and I can attach it to something in my brain, I will remember it easier. Now, if I come up with a new fact, then I have to take that piece of information and move it to wherever it needs to go. Otherwise, I'm not going to remember it. So, that we do suppositions all the time, and Some people say it's because we're prejudiced, but there's other reasons. It could be just to help us. In the past, it could have helped us keep us safe. Now it could help us remember information. Now, back to clickbaiting. I know many video titles are clickbait, and the main part of the video may not have anything at all to do with the title. And it's just the way it is. Now, in our stories, especially a murder mystery or some espionage, that would be a great place to put in some subtle supposition. Notice the alliteration there. Don't forget your tools. Subtle supposition. Do you remember alliterations? This is a side note. Alliteration is when you use the same sound, not necessarily the same letter, but the same sound several times in a row or next to each other or several times in a row in a sentence. And it kind of gets you a little bit of a peek there. So don't forget your tools. Now, some of the murder mysteries, we're back on topic now. Some of the murder mysteries I've read, they give a few details about the different suspects. And as you read more, you learn that the different suspects are innocent. Some of them are innocent. And someone not suspected at all is suddenly the murderer in the story. So I am reading a murder mystery right now. It's called 3 Bedrooms and a Corpse. It's by Charlene Harris. And I've told you about Charlene Harris. She wrote the Sookie Stackhouse series. And this is one of the Aurora Teagarden mystery series. And I don't like Aurora as much as Sookie, but anyway. So a murder happened, and in this book so far, Aurora's trying to become a realtor because her mom owns a real estate business. So her mom asked her to go open a house for clients to look at it until she's able to get there. So Aurora goes, and she's known this house because she was childhood friends with the person that used to live there. And they open the bedroom door to this 3-bedroom house, and there's a corpse in the bed. So of course there's the title of the book. No supposition there. 3 bedrooms and a corpse. But as soon as she was showing a 3-bedroom house, I was like, "Where's the corpse?" But now, how did the corpse get there? Well, the person that's the corpse was a realtor, and she had to get the key to show the house, but the key was back for Aurora. Aurora is her nickname, to show the house or to open the house. So, who gave her the key? Because she didn't pick up the key herself. Who put the key back? Who drove her car away from there and parked it wherever it was parked later? All these things are clues. So we've got a pointing to the person that brought her the keys. We got a pointing to, of course, her husband because she's been cheating on him or whatever. And then there was another pointing, like Ro was at some kind of wake or something, and there was somebody that was kind of very negative about somebody else that was suspected. So it was just like, maybe. So I've got suppositions going everywhere in this book right now. Is it this person? Is it this person? Is it this person? And it may not be any of those. It may be the person that she was showing the house to, which supposedly is the first time they're seeing the house. And he only called this real estate office to see the house. And so he hadn't seen the house. Okay. So, and the real estate people at this is a small town. So they actually have the keys on a keyboard, not a keyboard like a computer, but a keyboard that they have on the wall. They have the keys on the keyboard, and the different realtors will go to the different real estate offices to borrow the keys and bring them back. So, this is the only time that he asked to get the key from this real estate agent, but he could have asked to see the house before. I don't know that. right now, from what I'm reading, I'm not supposed to be supposing that, right? So, like I said, some of the murder mysteries, they give you a few details about different suspects. And as you read more, you learn that the different suspects are innocent. And then someone not suspected at all, like the guy that just saw the house with the body in it, not suspected at all, is the murderer in the story. So, actually, it's pretty good that I read some of that book, so I can kind of expand on the supposition there. Now, like I said before, our brains make suppositions to process all the information that gets thrown at us in a day. We make guesses, but as we learn details, we adjust. And our characters can do the same thing. I've told you, we take real life, we pull it down, and we put it into our stories. So our characters can do the same things that we do, either in real life or as we're reading a book or as we're watching a movie, whatever. Our characters can do the same things. They can guess what's going on or who is responsible. And as the story plays out, they can adjust their supposition. Of course, you, as writers, like if you were Charlene Harris, right, and you were writing this book, you would know who the murderer was. Then you would have to go back and figure out, okay, how do I want to set up the scene? Who do I want to make look guilty at the beginning? How do I clear their names? And how do we end up with the real murderer at the end? And sometimes in real life, they don't. There's cold cases out there that probably every detective department in the United States probably has cold cases to where they haven't solved the mystery. Okay, so, but we as writers don't want to leave our readers just hanging like that, unless we had the case in the beginning, we looked at everybody, and then we jumped to 25 years later, and then we solved the mystery like that. You can write a book like that. But anyway, in your book, you need to figure out how to tie things up, how to pull things together, and that, you do want the interrelated events, and you want to build to a climax and stuff. So if you left it as unsolved, then you would miss your climax. Now let's turn to our writings. Pull out your story with a setting. We don't have a shared plot for this one. We're just going to pull it out and continue from wherever we left off. For reference, we started this in season 3.1, and sometimes YouTube does not put the dot. It was episode 17, and then we continued. If you check the description below, it will list all of the episodes through like season 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, season 4, and now in season 5. Not only will it list the episodes down below, it will have the original setting where we started. Feel free to screenshot the setting and start today. Of course, all works shared on the channel are copyright protected, so that's more reason to send it in, because there will be proof that they are your writings, that your writings are yours when I read them to my viewers. So send your writings to writewithmykela@gmail.com. Pause the video, write a scene or page or at least 500 words or whatever goal you have, and come back and I will read what I wrote. Welcome back, writers. Let me read what I wrote. At the hospital, Kahira got out. She knew from Alfred that she looked like a certain nurse, and the nurse was out to lunch. She was returning 10 minutes before the nurse was scheduled to return. Kahira was very nervous. Excuse me. But she thought this was a good test, especially since Balsterdendum wanted her to use glamours to infiltrate vampire parties. After she rode the elevator up to the correct floor, she started walking down the hall. She wanted to appear confident and not hesitate when she needed to turn a corner. She started seeing her grandmother floating before her, so she just followed her grandmother. As they neared the nurse's station, a male orderly came from the right and turned on their hall and walked away from them. Kahira's heart exploded in her chest. The orderly seemingly didn't notice her, but her grandmother had paused as well. Jezebel, the grandmother, turned back and motioned Kahira on, and Kahira felt the message quickly. Kahira quickly walked down the hall until she came to the ICU. She found the woman, and all the machines were not moving. Kahira froze. "You don't have much time," came the message from Jezebel. Jezebel started sending feelings to Kahira, so she knew the words to say. Kahira chanted the spell for quite some time. She didn't know how long, but she could feel herself shaking. Kahira heard voices coming down the hall. It sounded like someone knew the equipment was not connected. Kahira started to panic, but she felt the spirit of her grandmother push her up against the wall out of the way as people started entering the room. People quickly connected and started the equipment again and started to use a defibrillator when the lady opened her eyes. The nurse that Kahira was supposed to look like reached out her hand to stop the doctor. The lady's eyes fluttered a few times. "Where am I?" she asked in a raspy voice. Then Kahira passed out. A few hours later, Kahira opened her eyes. She looked around the dark room. She wanted to ask where she was, but she was too scared. She leaned up on her elbow. "I'm glad to see you're awake," came a voice. "Alfred?" asked Kahira. "Yes," replied the voice. "May I turn on a dim light?" "Yes," replied Kahira. Alfred turned on the lamp and told her he would be back. He returned with Balsterdendum and Fangston. The three of them debriefed her on what happened since she passed out. Starting with the nurse she looked like, returned 3 minutes earlier than she was supposed to, and on the recording they heard her saying that she had an uneasy feeling about the patient, so she had called ahead, and then when she arrived, the person managing the nurse's station informed her that the equipment wasn't sending any signals. Fangston told her that there seemed to be a force around her. He looked at Alfred and said, "While I trust your spell was sufficient for her not to be seen by anyone or the cameras, there was something more." He continued and told them that he could still make her out until he heard the voices. Then she became a shimmering, blurry surface. He told them he got closer to the area because he wanted to help her get out. Fangston said, "And then as I neared the area, I felt my hair stand on end and my body vibrate. I also felt a message. It said, 'Get ready to catch her.' So I got as ready as I could." He looked at Kahira. "You landed in my arms, and thankfully the doctors and nurses were concentrating on the patient. Then about a second and a half after I caught you, if that much, since time seemed slowed in such circumstances, I looked down and could no longer see you or my arms. I quietly slipped past them carrying you, and we made it back to Alfred's car." Balsterdendum then asked Kahira if she had any explanations. Kahira told them about seeing her grandmother. She confessed that her grandmother had helped her with lifting the curse off the werewolves and with the spell said over the zombies in the small town of Herodsburg. For the first time, Kahira saw Balsterdendum smile. He said, "So, Jezebel is back from the grave, and she is helping us finish what Isla could not. That's good. If you take care of this before they revive Victor, then there will be no one to revive him." "But the heirs," said Kahira before she thought about it. She continued almost without control over her own voice. "The oldest heir, Semstorian, he will take Victor's place. Kahira covered her mouth. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. Balster Denton looked at Alfred. Alfred shook his head. No, I didn't give her names. Kahira said, Augusta will be quite mad that he claims the crown, but vampires don't acknowledge females so much. Kahira covered her mouth again. This is just coming out. I don't know where it's coming from. Balster Denton laughed. Jezebel was very good and accurate with future. Isla, your mother, was consumed with past. Alfred cut in. Not to disagree, but just to inform Kahira, accurate with future doesn't mean future comes true. It just means it is highly likely future. So what you've told us is that we need to know about Samstorian before we do too much against Victor's clan. But there is a twist with Augusta, the only daughter and the only heir from Victor's wife, Ursula. Yes, I forget. Kahira doesn't know all that Jezebel knows, stated Balster Denton. She's done a lot already. He looked at Kahira. After the doctors left Emily, and that was the woman's name, we were able to ask her if she wanted our protection, and she agreed. We can prevent another attack, or at least most other attacks, which is good since the news station pounced on the story of the woman surviving. Many stations are trying to get interviews, which we advised her against. Still, the vampires will know that cutting off the equipment after the permission period didn't work. Kahira sighed. In some ways, she wanted to know if the woman knew she was giving permission at all. In other ways, she thought it was best she didn't know. She felt the message. I can show you. Kahira said, You can show me what? Kahira saw the three men look at her with questions on their faces, and she felt herself turn red. Kahira heard, Close your eyes, and I will show you. Kahira closed her eyes. She saw the two women who died before they died. They were dating a vampire and had recently learned their dates were vampires, and they desired power. She saw the vampires tell them all they had to do to become a vampire was to show their willingness at the ball and donate blood. So the two women agreed. The two women were secretly happy. Then Kahira saw the third woman. Her date was the vampire that looked like the orderly she saw in the hallway. Kahira realized that was why her heart exploded. It wasn't her nervousness. It was her spidey senses going off. The third woman actually got in a fight with the vampire and wanted to break up with him, and she seemingly didn't know he was a vampire. The vampire convinced her that he already RSVP'd for her, so she needed to be polite and go to the charity ball. He told her she wouldn't have to donate if she didn't want to. At the charity ball, Youngstor, the vampire, soon-to-be ex-boyfriend, told her the blood was for veterans who didn't have living family members to donate for them. The woman, Emily, hadn't been the right type of blood to donate to her own father, and he passed because he didn't receive a blood transfusion on time. Emily donated in her father's memory. After Kahira saw all that, her mother Isla revealed that she was Isla, and she was deeply sorry Kahira had to be living this nightmare now. Isla also said that donating in her father's memory was what saved her to last through the, quote, permission period, because the father was able to intervene during that time. Kahira shook her head to herself several times before she opened her eyes. That was when she realized the three men were looking at her. I stuttered Kahira. Alfred held up his hands. We understand you have a lot of learning to do. It's just so wrong, said Kahira. Not the first two, but Emily. Kahira pushed her eyebrows together. Who am I? What am I thinking? I don't wish death on anyone, Fangston said. Did you somehow receive Emily's story? It sounds like she received all three, put in Alfred. He looked at Kahira. A gut reaction isn't necessarily who you are. Thanks, replied Kahira. They got her to tell them what she received. Afterwards, Balster Denham told her their investigation had revealed similar results. Alfred then told her that the receptionist saw her leave his office at 10:45, which was just minutes after she actually left, and Zarig drove her car home. They arranged to get Kahira home. Okay, writers, that's all that I'm adding today. That was 1566 words. So, leave a comment on, like, when she saw the orderly. Did you have any clue that he might have been a vampire posing as an orderly? Or did you just think he was an orderly and she was nervous? Right? Leave a comment on, she's going up the elevator. She wants to appear confident because she doesn't want people to suspect her. But then she sees her grandmother. Would you have just believed that you were seeing your grandmother? Or would you have been like, okay, I'm delusional, I'm not seeing things? Would that have made you more nervous or less nervous? Leave a comment on the stories of the three women. The two women, they wanted the power, or they wanted power. And so they were happy that their boyfriends were vampires, and they wanted to be vampires. So I know it's not right to wish death on anybody, and I don't, but is there some part of us that say, well, they got what they deserved? No, we don't wish death on people, but they were told vampires, and they didn't back out. They didn't see the, hindsight, of course, is 2020, but they didn't see that they should back out. They wanted power. They were greedy. So they got, I guess, what was coming to them, or what they headed towards. So leave your comments on how you feel about their stories as opposed to the other story. Emily, when she was told, the vampire actually used her emotions. And vampires can kind of see in your eyes and read emotions, at least in some books they can. And so he probably knew that her father was a veteran and that he died. So he played on her emotions to say, the blood is going to veterans that don't have family to donate. So he played on her emotions, but then that enabled the father, the soul or the spirit of the father, to come and kind of do some protection over her. So leave those comments how you feel about those, the two women versus Emily, the different stories, how you feel about that. Leave a comment on if you've ever donated blood, if you will think twice about donating blood again, or if you've never donated blood. Just leave comments on all of that, because we have to take from real life, right? And I have donated once. It was before I knew I was diabetic, so I don't think they let diabetics donate. But anyway, it was before I knew I was a diabetic. It was through our church. They were having, a donation, and then we went in, and I think they gave us a little juice and peanut butter crackers or something to eat. I don't remember what we ate, but we had a little bit of something to eat. Then they hooked us up, and then you see the blood going into the bag and stuff. If I had done it earlier than that, I wouldn't have been able to do it, because I was very scared of needles before I was pregnant with my first child. And then after 5 pregnancies, you've seen a lot of needles, and you've given a lot of blood, and they've stuck you a whole bunch of times, and they've given shots to your kids. So you get a little bit more used to needles. So I wasn't as scared when I did donate, but it did make me feel, even though we had orange juice and stuff to eat, it did make me feel very lightheaded, and I had to kind of stay on the table a little longer than normal. So leave comment if you donate, don't donate, whatever. And if you want to give a little bit of your experience when you did donate, or if you donate often, how often, or what charities you donate to. So leave all of those comments. Join me Wednesday for our book club discussion on 1984. Join me Friday for elementals. Join me Tuesday for some more jargon. Leave a comment on a term you would have me discuss or your favorite term so far. Supposition was a good one today. We really suppose a lot of things. There are so many words and ideas. Or if you have an idea for a writing prompt, you can leave that in the comments as well, because we're getting very close to finishing up a down soldier. My version of a down soldier. Don't forget to visit my website by Mykela.com. Read some character bios. Send your writings and chapters to writewithmykela@gmail.com. So writewithmykela, no spaces, @gmail.com. Leave comments on your favorite characters. If you hit the like and subscribe and the bell notification, then we will continue to write together. And other people will have a higher chance of finding this video, since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, please share it with them. This is Mykela with Write with Mykela. Bye for now.